not return to you void, but it will achieve that which you've set out for it to accomplish. So we give you glory, we give you praise, and we open our ears this morning, Father God, with expectancy in the name of Jesus. Amen. I hope you like some of the pictures that I've got this morning. I'll bring you one in a while. That's for the older folks amongst us. There's one for the younger folks as time goes on. If anybody's got dentures this morning, well, I do apologise, but sometimes life is a bite too big for anyone to do it on our own. And sometimes you have to work it out. And there are so many things in my life that I've had to work out. Have you? From being a child, a young child, you have to work out how to walk. You have to work out how to talk. I'm just going to share a really quick story that made Joe and I fall about with laughter. We were in the car last Friday with my 2-year-old grandchild. And I don't know what was going on. I think Joe had turned sharply or something. And I said, oh, for goodness sake, Joe. And from the back came this tiny little voice, but quite powerful. And she said, pack it in, Grandma. Oh, we were floored. But she'd learned that from her mummy and daddy when she squabbled with her sister. Pack it in, Grandma. But she'd learned how to say it. She'd worked it out for herself. And she'd worked out the timing of where it fitted as well. And sometimes life can give you a bit of a wake-up call, can't it? About how quickly. And sometimes the kids knock us off our feet, don't they? Because they learn things so much quicker than we do as we get older. But I want to bring you a verse that literally just leapt out at me recently. It just leapt out at me. I'd had one of those hard days at work, if I'm really honest. And this is what it said. It said, all hard work brings profit, but mere talk leads to poverty. And I thought, God, I just felt the Lord said to me, I've seen you work. I've seen what you've done. I've seen the hours that you've put in. And sometimes if we want to build anything, or we want to do anything, or we want to achieve anything, it requires that stuff called work, doesn't it? We spend a lot of our time at work in life, don't we? I used to work with people around their work and around the hours that they spent there. And I knew the percentage of people, the percentage of life that we spend at work. And when we're not at work, we're often doing work at home, aren't we? Around the home, or we've got other commitments. But I want you to bear that verse in mind this morning from Proverbs 14:23. All hard work brings profit, but mere talk leads only to poverty. A modern parallel to this proverb would be like this. Talk is cheap, words are easy. And I've found that in my life. Talk is cheap, or I'm going to do this. I've been saying for about 30 years, or I'm going to pick my guitar up. But talk is cheap. What I needed to do was find it in the loft, pick it up, clean it down, get some new strings on it, and get going. Talk is cheap, words are easy. So labour and work, we all know whatever kind of labour we're involved in. And you might have retired from the workplace, but I want to tell you in life you're still involved in labour. For those of you who've got children, you never stop being a mum and you never stop being a dad. You've come to church today, and let me just tell you, you're one of the bricks in our building, and you'll never stop being part of the job that needs to be done here. If you're a husband, if you're a wife, if you're an uncle, if you're an auntie, there's a job to be done. There's birthday cards to be sent. There's things to do. If you want to do a job properly, do a good one. Do a good one. That's what my mum used to say to me. So much of what my mum used to say to me as a child has pounded me back through the eye walls over the last few months. But if you want to do a job, do it properly. Do a good one. Talk is cheap, isn't it? But all hard work leads to blessing. Isn't that brilliant to know? Isn't that brilliant to know that when you go to work tomorrow, if you work hard, God will bless it. I find that really encouraging, don't you, on a Monday morning when the bones are tired? Not too bad in the summer, but really tough in the winter months. Jesus laboured and he worked hard at things. It says he worked and he laboured and he saw the travail of his soul and he was satisfied. Isn't that good? Have you ever done a good job, cut the lawn even, simple as that, and stood back and your garden looks so much better, doesn't it, when you've done the job and tidied it up and done it well? But Jesus laboured. He learned obedience. He laboured in it. He practiced it. He dedicated himself to it. He put some effort into his project, into the calling that God had given him. So we're all building something in our lives. We're building maybe dreams in our lives if you're younger here. Maybe you're a child and you're building your education. Maybe an adult today and you're still parenting children that you never expected it to be. We're all involved in something, and it takes dedication, skill and knowledge. And I want to speak to you about a man who was building this morning. Can I pray, God, who do I bring to mind to the people who built? You know, Nehemiah came to mind, and he built an entire city that had been broken down. Now, let me just tell you, in the days that he built, they didn't have a cherry picker. They didn't have a JCB machine. They didn't have these great big cranes that you see. They had torches and trowels when they worked day and night. So their tools were quite simple. But he built and restored a city. And I want to read you a little section from Nehemiah, the book of Nehemiah. I can't read it all to you this morning, but in one section it says, they said to me, those who survived the exile are back in the province, are in great trouble and disgrace. This was how it came to Nehemiah, that there was some work to do. The wall in Jerusalem is broken down, and its gates have been burned with fire. I wonder how the people of Ukraine feel today when they see their city being burned, and they see the devastation in their land. But you know, I look at Great Britain and I see devastation in different families, and I see wounds and I see things that have fallen down. I see principles that have gone by the by, and a great heap of bricks sometimes of things and truths that we had that are now in disarray. But this man was moved by it. And sometimes we're not moved by it, are we? I think they call it familiarity fatigue. We get so familiar with watching it, we switch off to the reality of what it is. But you know, when a city's broken down, when a church is broken down, when a family's broken down, when your heart is broken down, it's vulnerable. And that was the position that these people were in. They were vulnerable to discouragement. They were vulnerable, should we be very real in this day and age, to depression. They were vulnerable to attack. They were vulnerable to financial ruin. They were vulnerable to being aimless and lacking motivation. But Nehemiah didn't just sit and do nothing. And as we see, and we're here today as a group of people, I want to encourage us, let's pull together to build the walls of this church. Let's pull together. I believe that God has been building the walls. It's been absolutely incredible to watch what God has been doing. Building the walls, repairing things, slotting people into places. But I believe there are some things that we can learn from Nehemiah when he built the walls. See, the first thing he did was sort out his priorities. He just didn't sit there and do nothing. Derek, just before you go, you're part of my sermon, so I'm going to... Are you on the hoof? Oh, you can come back then, because you're part... I need you a little later on. So he didn't sit there and do absolutely nothing. He sat there and he took hold of what was needing doing. He had a job. We'll read about that in a minute. He was already a busy man. It's so easy, but without a common commitment, without the buy-in, as they say, without you getting involved, without you taking the decision to do something. You see, we're all busy, and everybody thought that somebody would do it, so nobody did anything, because everybody thought somebody was doing something. And everybody thought it was somebody else's responsibility. But that wasn't how Nehemiah was. He took responsibility. He got his priorities right. It says that they all joined together. So we all rebuilt the wall till all of it reached half its height. You can't tackle it all in one go. How do you eat an elephant? You do it one bite at a time, don't you? Just do one thing. Just put your brick in. Just bring some cement. Just bring a cake, some biscuits. Just offer to help here and there. Just do one thing until it was all joined together. You see, we're all meant to be joined together. If you build a house, there's no point having a brick here and there, and I'm doing my bit and you're doing your bit. The bricks need to be joined together to make one whole and one habitation for somebody. In the New Living Translation, it said, at least the wall was completed to half the height around the entire city. Now that's no mean feat, is it? It's a big job in those days with a trowel and a torch. For the people had a mind to work with enthusiasm. Do you have any enthusiasm about what you're building? What you're building in your marriage? What you're building in your own life? What your aims, what your goals are? Do you have any enthusiasm for what you're doing? Can you be bothered to make the effort to put some energy in? You see, when Nehemiah did this and with the people, it was about mission. It wasn't about position. It was about mission, not about position. They all put their one brick in. None of them had a title. They were all nobles, this, that. They were ordinary men and women, if you read about it. They didn't have grand titles. And I want to tell you in church, it isn't about elders and leaders and deacons and this and that and all the other and the youth leader. It's about all of us. You don't need a title to work in this church because it's about mission and it is not about position. And I want to tell you that's a word for some folks this morning. It's about mission, not position. Are you committed to the mission whether you have a title or whether you don't? I want to share it. He's hopped out, so we'll leave him wherever he is, and I think that might be the little room, but whatever. Derek is a man who does mission, but he doesn't do position. I have watched that man's life, and I can't tell you how much he's blessed me. It's his 50th wedding anniversary today, I think. That's some going in there. 50 years, Derek, well done. He's done mission in his marriage. He hasn't done position. He's done mission. That takes some stamina. That takes all of the principles that we're going to talk here. Derek does mission and not position. He gets around the community and he talks to people and he shares the love of God. He picks up the talent that he's got and he's teaching people guitar. He's teaching a little girl and he shared with me a little bit about that little girl's life. Oh my gosh, wherever he goes, he just natters the gospel. He just natters the love of God. But he doesn't have a position, but he's committed to the mission. I want to ask you this morning, will you commit yourself to the mission? What mission has God given you in life? Are you that fixed on the title that you can't be part of the team? You see, it isn't all about titles in teams. It's about the work and about the mission and about the purpose. So they had a mind to work. You see, it wasn't a we thing. It wasn't a me thing, as in Nehemiah would do it. It was a we thing. We will commit. We will bring a trowel. We will bring a torch. These people took responsibility. What responsibility are you taking for your life? You know, sometimes you listen to people, and being really honest, they have the victim thing, the victim status, don't they? All happen to me, I can't do anything. You know, I've tried this, I've tried that, I've tried the other. Sometimes we have to take a little bit of responsibility, don't we? There's that phrase in there, man up, grow up, and take some responsibility. Well, we can lady up, grow up, and take some responsibility. We all have to take some responsibility, and God can help us do that. What do you want me to do? Where do you want me to start? What small brick in my life, Lord, has crumbled? Where are you helping me? Where do you want me to make this building in my life more stable? How do you want to help me to do that? And Nehemiah had a really clear strategy for doing that. I read this quote this week. It said, hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard. Now, Jill and I learned the phrase at Bible college that they drummed into her. It's more about character than it is about charisma. Give me one man with one talent than one man with 15 talents who doesn't do anything with them, who's too lazy to be bothered to prepare, to turn up, to put the effort in, to work as a team player. Have you ever seen people who are so gifted but they can't get on with anybody? Oh my gosh, sometimes hard work beats that flat down. The faithful people that turn up here and put the chairs out, the faithful people that clean and put the loo rolls out every week. Sometimes people that do the simplest job, and let me tell you, they exemplify what I'm talking about. You see, they do mission, they don't do position. It's not about a title when you're the loo roll deliverer, is it? There is no title for the person that does that. But let me just tell you, would you miss the loo roll if you needed it? Without being too graphic. There are times when we need the most simple things in life, and it's about mission. It isn't about position. It's about work. It's about commitment to building the atmosphere and the projects that we're involved in. We read this too this week. The only place where success comes before work is in the dictionary. If you're successful at something, you have worked at it. Most people don't have the talent when it just lands on them. They have to work at it. If you want to play a keyboard, you have to work at it. If you want to do a significant job, if you want to be a good mom, if you want to be a good auntie, if you want to be a good servant or a good singer, you need to work at it. If you want to be a good auntie, a good uncle, a good grandma, you need to work at it. Work at it. See, Nehemiah worked at it. He took responsibility to work hard. He had vision and foresight. And let me tell you, it took a lot of courage to have vision and foresight at that time, when you're going to tackle a whole city, and you're going to tackle it with people that need to come and work with you. Sometimes we can't walk by sight, but we do have to walk by faith, don't we? How many times as a church have we done that? Well, we've not had to walk by sight, but we've really had to walk by faith. If we looked at the bricks, if we looked at certain things, I remember at one point I in my head, and I didn't dare say this to my husband, my thing for the church was, there was a hole in your bucket, dear Liza. Because every time we came to this church building for months, there was a hole. There was a hole in the roof back there. But we needed to walk by faith and not by sight. And there were some people that worked with us. Some people that worked so hard alongside my husband to work with builders and to use their talent and to just do the bit that they did. And Joe did the bit that he did, and Huey did the bit that he did. It took a team. It wasn't a me thing, it was a we thing. And then when we took the project on over there, the same thing applied. You know, in a marriage, it's not a me thing, it's not an I thing, I do, it's a we thing. What do you do? What do you do? What do you do to make it better? What do you do to take some responsibility to build the walls of your own life? Nehemiah was such a good example. He was a role model. He put his hand to the plough. He was adaptable. He bent his skills. You see, we'll read in a minute, I think. We'll come to it, but I'll tell you now. He was a cupbearer to the king. He already had a very responsible job. Yes, he drank the wine, but if he drank the wine and it was wrong, the king was dead. You know, he didn't do it. The king was dead first. That was a significant job in those days. He was a busy man, actually. He had responsibilities. I don't think that was the only thing he did for the king. But God uses busy people. God uses busy people. There's that little phrase, isn't it? If you want a job done, give it to a busy man. Give it to a busy man. My gosh, he committed to the job. I was really challenged recently looking at 1 Kings 19, verse 21. And it talks about Elisha there. And he was ploughing 12 yoke of oxen. And I think that's quite a job. 12 ox. That's no mean feat. That's a skill in its own right, isn't it? In scorching heat. So he had some skill. He was used to putting some elbow grease into something. He learned some skills in life. But a challenge came. Elisha came after him. And sometimes we have to work out our priorities. And this is what this man did. He went and burned his ploughing equipment. He slaughtered his oxen and he set out. He set out to serve a man. I was really moved by that. That's commitment, isn't it? You know, well, I'll give that one a try. I'll give it a try. Well, you know, I'll go on the tea rota for a week. This man burned his oxen. He burned his tools. There was no going back. This man didn't play okey-cokey with the calling that God had given him. Oh, 1 foot in. Oh, 1 foot out. If I don't like that church, I'll pop to somewhere else. Pardon me if I'm too cynical, but you hear it all, don't you? Oh, well, you know, the Lord's called me here for 6 months and I'll just see how it goes. You know, we have a frivolous attitude sometimes, don't we? I'll tell you, you know, I'm being honest, John, I have been here 15 years, I think it is. How many? 13? Feels like 50. But, you know, it wouldn't pay to have a frivolous attitude, would it? 1 foot in, 1 foot out, we do the okey-cokey and, oh, we shake it all about. I know I'm being risky, but I heard that phrase, oh, I'm following the glory, sister. Well, you follow it. But it takes commitment to stay here. It takes labourers. And you know, this church has been blessed with labourers. It's been blessed with people that play second fiddle. You can follow the glory all you like, but sometimes the glory takes hard work, it takes commitment. And I'm telling the church, we are seeing the city walls built. And when you protect a city, it is phenomenal. It doesn't always look smart, it doesn't always look fabulous, but we are building for the kingdom. We are building for the kingdom in this place. It's partnership and purpose. It isn't about position and it isn't about title. We've already said God uses busy people. So Nehemiah was accountable. How do I know he was accountable? Because he went to his boss and his boss gave him time off. That's some favour, isn't it? That's some favour. It didn't take 5 minutes to build the city wall, but his boss gave him a period of time to do the job, and he got it done in that time. He was accountable. Are you accountable? Will you take responsibility for what you've been trusted with and what you've been asked to do? Accountability motivates us and keeps us focused. I want to tell you, it's a privilege to come under authority. It's a privilege to come under authority. When you come under authority, you come under the protection. You come under protection. You come under their brains as well as your brains. Some of you know that I used to work for British Transport Police. And my boss was the chief, actually. And I knew sometimes when he said a word, you know, it was a very male-dominated environment. And one day he banged on the table and he said, "Gents," he said, "we'll have some respect here." That was it. That was it. Sometimes it pays to come under authority. But you know what? I'd earned that respect from him. He said, "This lady has something to say, and we will listen." I tell you, when you come under authority, it's a real privilege. They'll watch your back, you'll watch theirs. You're together in it. You want an example of that in this church? I have watched Huey and Joe work together for 13 years. I'll tell you what a partnership is. I'll tell you about a man who's come under authority, or I'll tell you about a man who can listen to someone else. It's about mission. It isn't about position. You're all sat looking at me really serious. I have this knack, don't I? You know, I want to tell you today, God has got some mission for all of you. He's got something for you to do. Your time isn't done. Your purpose isn't spent. And then, how are we doing for time? Because I do have to watch it. We're doing all right, isn't it? Another thing that they pursued was unity. They weren't all the same. When you read the book of Nehemiah, they all had different jobs, actually. There was lots of different things going on. And I want to tell you, despite their talent, and despite some differences that they had, they all worked together. They all had the torch and the trowel in common. What we've got in common is we all love Jesus and we all want to see a church built. We won't all get on all of the time. Wise up, grow up and get over yourself. I have never been with a group of people that get on. Sorry, am I too blunt? I have never been with a group of people that get on all of the time. People get on your nerves sometimes, don't they? It's real life. Because you might be able having a bad day when they're having a good one. And you're having a good day when they're just about doing your heading. That's life. That is life. That is people. But there was unity in purpose. Let me tell you, my lovely little granddaughter might just sing it like this. One finger, one thumb, keep moving. We'll all be jolly and bright. Sometimes you have to keep going whether you get on with the person or not. You have to be focused on the mission. You have to be focused on the mission and get on with people. They work through conflict. You can see that if you want to go home and read it. Some people got the ump in chapter 5 and Nehemiah had to deal with that. Unity involves grace. Now I'm telling you this from my own life. In the school of hard knocks, this is where I've learnt it. It takes grace. It takes patience. It takes sharing another person's joy, being thrilled for them when it's not working out for you, seeing their need and meeting it, understanding it. It involves giving people the benefit of the doubt. It involves grace because sometimes they'll get it wrong like you do. We don't serve perfect people in this church. We serve one another, and we all get it wrong sometimes. The lovely thing is about a marriage, I've been married, I think, I've lost count actually, I think it's 36 years now, something like that, is that there's the grace to laugh, the grace to get it wrong, the grace to just love each other. It takes grace, doesn't it, sometimes? It takes a great deal of grace. But you know, love is made up of grace. It's made up of grace. Sometimes giving them the benefit of the doubt. There's that lovely word, isn't there, called assume, and if you break that down, it means making an ass out of you and me. The other day, Joe had done something that really niggled me, and I was having a conversation in my head, and I had to stop myself and say, I'm assuming this is what he thought when he did this. Don't assume. So many things we've got wrong, haven't we, when we've assumed, but if we are, if we clarify, if we look at it from their perspective, if we do a bit of giving them the benefit of the doubt, how many stomps would be avoided in marriage and in life and in church life? Sometimes we need to give people permission just to be themselves and accept that seasons sometimes change. The power of this unity is that it speaks volumes. The Bible said it in this way. It says, a new commandment I give unto you, that you would love one another as I have loved you. By this will all men know that you are my disciples, if you love one another. That doesn't say like one another. It says love one another. I loved my children as they were growing up. I love them dearly now. We don't always like what we do we? We don't always like the choices that they make, but we love them. You don't have to like everything about somebody else or the choices that they make, but you have to love them. We have to be generous with our love and our unity to one another. Nehemiah and these people were so generous with their time. If anything requires giving to, it requires a sense of generosity. How generous are you with your energy? How generous are you with your time? How generous are you with your words or your prayers? How generous, I'm just asking the question, are you when the offering box comes round? No, we're not after your money, but it does take money to build a house. It does take money to maintain a house. I think stingy people are the worst to be around. I've got one person in my life that I know is so stingy. I once bought a bag of plums that borrowed £1 off them. It was years and years ago. But they pursued me all day until I gave the 20 pence back because the plums cost 80 pence. It left a mark on my life. How stingy can you be sometimes for 20 pence? Oh my gosh. You know, it takes generosity of spirit, generosity of time, generosity of word. And Nehemiah and the people did all of that. They put into the work and they accomplished an enormous project that affected people for years to come. Do you know the projects that we're building here, the things that we're doing here will affect people for years to come? And you're dead and buried. What we do here, people will still be reaping. We see people at the centre whose parents came some years ago, and they're now sending their grandchildren to come and see us. That's amazing, isn't it? You see, the people that built then and the people that did the work then, we're seeing that benefit, and it goes on by word and by mouth and by reputation, because they were generous with their time, with their effort, with their vision. 2 Corinthians 9 verse 6 to 8 says, "Remember this, whoever sows sparingly will also reap sparingly, and whoever gives generously will also reap generously. Each of you should give what is decided to be in your hearts to give, not reluctantly or under compulsion, for God loves a cheerful giver." Well, I can't be bothered to turn up today. They'll do without me. They never appreciate me. God loves a cheerful giver. You're not doing it for them, you're doing it for him. We have such a stingy attitude sometimes, but they don't miss me anyway. Oh, grow up. We can't always say thank you. My husband doesn't always say thank you for everything that we do. But you know, he values what I do. And people value what you do, and God values what you do. But are you stingy in your thoughts? Are you stingy in your thoughts? Or are you a cheerful giver? It takes humility sometimes, doesn't it? It takes humility when nobody says thank you to keep turning up, doesn't it? Let's be honest, we all like to be appreciated. We all love it when the husband buys us a bunch of flowers. Hello. Hello. Long time no see. Hello. Just a bit of fun. But you know, we all like to be appreciated. But it takes humility to keep serving, doesn't it? Mums don't want to be appreciated just on Mother's Day, do they? Just take the time to say thank you to your grandma, will you? Take the time to say thank you to your daughter for being your daughter. Take the time and have the humility to say thank you to each other. There's so much. Open your... Somebody I love, I shan't say any more than that. Well, you know I love you. Well, I'd like to be told you love me. Just occasionally. We all like to be appreciated. We all like to be thanked. It takes humility to open your mouth and to mirror that. But you know, when you read it, Nehemiah was humble. He thanked the people for their service. He wasn't a prideful man. He wasn't full of his own trumpet. He said, let us, again, it says it's a we thing. Not a me thing, I did it, look how great I am, aren't I the fabulous one and all. Oh, God help us. It takes more than one person, doesn't it? It takes more than one. Many of us don't achieve much on our own. Some of these people, when I read it, I find this really interesting. They worked on the dung gate and the fish gate. Well, I got any offers this morning to come and help me on the dung gate and the fish gate. Anybody coming to clean the loos this morning? But you see, the dung gate was really important. If there isn't a way for excrement, pardon the nursing language, to go out, we're in trouble. So the simple jobs in life really matter, don't they? It matters that the loos get cleaned at home. The fish gate, you see, that's where all the industry came in. That was their economic value. But fish stink, don't they, sometimes? Some of the jobs that we do aren't very attractive. My husband had the washing machine upside down last week and the whole house was in chaos. Some of the jobs we do aren't very attractive. But by hook or by crook, eventually, a new washing machine landed in our house. We did have to go and buy one, and we were blessed to do so. But the reality is that you miss the washing machine if it's broken down, don't you? The whole house had washing everywhere after 2 weeks. We finally realised that the dung gate wasn't working and the fish gate and the washing was building up. Sometimes it's those jobs, those important things that people worked on the dung gate. You see, it was mission. It wasn't position. It didn't matter where they worked. If the dung gate and the fish gate weren't attended to, it was all in a state of affairs. And let me just tell you, let me just stop and bring this down to you. If your well-being isn't attended to, your building will fall down. You'll fall down. If your mental health isn't attended to, sometimes it catches up with us. If your anger, your dung gate, isn't attended to, It will affect your whole body. If your spiritual well-being, as in Jesus said, I am the way, the truth and the life. Nobody comes to me but by the Father. If you don't sort out your eternal destiny, your whole being is going to be affected. You see, these things are so important with whatever we're building and to every single one of us in this room. I've talked this morning, I'm going to flip back a little bit. We talked about unity. I want to talk about that, and we talked about the door gate. And I want to read to you a psychological profile of 12 apostles. So sometimes we have to work with people, don't we? So imagine if Jesus sent for a psychological profile of the guys that he was going to use to a management company. So, dear sir, thank you for submitting a resume of 12 men you have picked for management positions in your new organisation. Management positions. All of them have taken a battery of tests. We've not only run the results through our computer, but also arranged for personal interviews for each of them with a psychological and vocational aptitude consultancy test. Who did those at work? Personality tests, talent tests, all that kind of stuff, sorry. There's an HR advisor in the room, I really shouldn't do that. But it says it is our conviction that most of your nominees are lacking in background, education, vocational aptitude for the type of enterprise you are undertaking. They do not have a team concept. We would recommend that you continue to search for persons of experience in managerial ability and proven capacity. Simon Peter is emotionally unstable and is given to fits of temper. Andrew has absolutely no qualities of leadership. The two brothers, James and John, the sons of Zebedee, place personal interest above company loyalty. Thomas demonstrates a sceptical attitude. Well, that wouldn't be us, would it? Never been sceptical. Sceptical attitude. I heard somebody laughing. Thomas demonstrates a sceptical attitude that would undermine staff morale. We feel it's our duty to tell you that Matthew has been blacklisted by the Greater Jerusalem Better Business Bureau. I think he was a tax collector, wasn't he? Hence, the son of Alphaeus and Thaddeus definitely have radical leanings, and they both registered on the score on highly depressive manic scale. One of the candidates, however, just one, shows great potential, is a man of ability and resourcefulness. He meets people well, has a keen business mind and contacts in very high places. He's highly motivated, ambitious and responsible. We recommend Judas Iscariot as your controller and right-hand man. You know what he did? Betrayed Jesus, went out and hung himself. God chooses people that we wouldn't always choose ourselves. Unity. Unity. God has got his hand on you to do something. He chooses ordinary people. So we're coming to the end. We're getting there. Last thing that this man Nehemiah had to do, and I think the disciples had to do, was to be tenacious. That's a posh word, isn't it? Tenacious. It meant they had to get a firm grip, be persistent, not as limp as a cost lettuce. Have you ever seen one of those? Just all leaf, and the minute you pick them up, they just flop. Have you got any substance about you? Life takes a bit of substance. Takes a bit of endurance, doesn't it? It takes a bit of stickability, a bit of tenacity. My dear friend, becoming a daddy will take some tenacity. It will take some tenacity. It is gloriously wonderful. And see, when those sleepless nights come, it takes some tenacity. See, when those terrible twos come, see, when they get hormones as a teenager and a mind of their own, it takes some tenacity, doesn't it? Life takes some tenacity. Nehemiah had all sorts of intimidation, assaults, accusations. It takes a bit of tenacity. What's in your spine today? It takes men of a bit of spine, doesn't it? Don't give up at the first hurdle. It takes a bit of tenacity. It takes a bit of a firm grip and stickability. But you see, it wasn't about the title, it was about the mission. So he stuck to the mission. He needed to be patient and enduring. In Psalm 31 and verse 24 we read, "Be strong and let your heart take courage, all you who wait for the Lord." And then in another scripture we read, "The harvest does not happen instantly, as anything worth doing takes time." Let me just tell you, the harvest is plentiful, but the labourers are few. Have you got the tenacity? Have you got the tenacity in the face of opposition to remain focused? He battled in prayer constantly. In the face of conflict and intimidation, he worked it through. Galatians 6 and verse 9, which is the verse I was trying to say, it says, "And let us not grow weary for doing good, for in due season we will reap if we do not give up." We will reap. I want to tell you, some of us in this church here are reaping because we did not give up. We are reaping. We are reaping. We are reaping. Church, have you heard that? We are in a reaping season because we did not give up in our winter season. We are reaping. We are reaping. God sees your labour. He sees your faithfulness. He sees when you've been tenacious. And I want to tell you, you will reap if you do not give up. But I believe this morning, and I'm going to finish with this, there are a couple of things I really want to bring out of this. God is interested in you. You are a brick that God is interested in. What state of the brick are you in this morning? Is there some building to be done in your life? Do you need to come to know Jesus and know that your spiritual life is sorted out? Do you need some help with your marriage? Do you need to put some effort into it? Is God asking you to be a we person, not a me person? Is he asking you to be generous? Put your hand in your pocket and bless somebody else. Take them out for coffee. Is God asking you to be generous? I'm happy to pray with somebody when they're singing in a minute and see what God will do. But I want to believe what I believe is a prophetic word to God from the Lord this morning. I do believe that the Lord is saying it is mission. It is not position. It's not title. It is team. When you work it, commit to it, and serve it, God will bless it. Have you got that? That's a prophetic word. When you work for it, don't give up too early. Commit to it and serve it. God will bless it. Don't look over your shoulders at others, how they're doing, if they've turned up, what they're doing. If only we had this, that others do what he has asked them to do and to serve, we would grow. We would reap what we have served. Can I ask you this morning, will you serve somebody else? Will you serve somebody else? Let's pray. We're going to sing in a minute. Would the worship team please come? They're able. And can you know that first song that we sang? I think it was, or whatever, it's about I speak the name of Jesus. You know, I think when Nehemiah was tenacious, he spoke the name of Jesus. He focused on the name of Jesus. We're going to sing, and if we do sing, perhaps you would let the Lord do something in your heart. Let him speak to you whatever thing he's been talking to you about this morning, and then we'll finish in prayer and offer some ministry to some people.